What is up? What is happening, people? Welcome back. We're going to be doing some more artwork today for my up-and-coming 2D side-scroller game. We're going to be making some more swamp assets, probably some more plants. I think I may make a stump today. Stumps are great. Every swamp's got stumps in it all over the place. Trees fall down, the stumps just stick around. Guess that's what stumps do. Stumps are a pain to pull out. Have you ever tried to pull one out? Those things don't want to give up their grip on the ground. They're so heavy. Well, anyways, yeah, that's what we're doing today. We're gonna make some more stuff. I got the Wacom set up so we can be definitely a little bit more articulate in our artwork. And yeah. So today, we may get into trees. Got a bunch of reference photos here for swamp trees. You can kind of see a lot of them have these fat bases and they taper up. A lot of them have roots that go all over the place, like this guy. I definitely like the ones that have these this stuff like dangling down. We'll definitely do some stuff like that. Let's see, what else can we get in here too? We'll probably make some more trees. I want to make some fern-like trees. These ferns look nice. We're definitely going to make some of those. And yeah, I think we should probably just get right into it. Let's work on some greens. Here's the plants that we made yesterday. Still pretty happy with these. This cattail needs some work. It's looking a little too cartoony, a little too outlandish. I want it to have a little bit more realism. But we'll work on that later. We're going to go ahead and set up a new one here. And let's go ahead and make a guide layout. Bam, there we go. I already got it defaulted. If you do these a lot, if you're working with 2D assets a lot, it's good to have a template set up for the size that you're working with. I use 1024 by 768. And it's good to have a template set up for your guides as well. As you can see here, I'm already set up. I got 32 by 32 pixel squares here, and that's the purpose of that is when I have this put in a game maker, it'll be perfect, right? It'll be set up on the grid system in that game, and I'll be able to cut tiles from it very easily. So yeah. So here's my little window for my guide. Now, as you can tell, this is my preset tile 32. So yeah, sometimes you may need to use this gutter. Sometimes it may not line up perfectly with the software you're using. So you're gonna want to keep an eye on this. And if you need to adjust it, this gutter is the way to go. But we're not gonna mess with that right now. The margin, we're not gonna mess with that either. Center columns, we don't need to do these because it works out that 32 is divisible. No, 1024 is divisible by 32, right? So it works out evenly, perfect. Same with 768, right? That's perfect amount of 32 by 32s. I don't remember the number. Oh, here it is right here. I got 32 columns by 24 rows. So the rows are the ones going side to side, and columns are vertical. What helps me remember this is like the ancient Roman Colosseums with the big columns. Yeah, I think of that. And that columns, right? Like vertical columns hold the building up type of thing. Rows, you can kind of remember that by thinking of like church pews are all in rows. They're horizontal. So yeah, that'll help you remember. Kind of helps me remember. Anyways, we're good to go here. So I'm going to hide the guides. We don't really need to mess with that until we start sizing things properly. And yeah. Oh, and you may have noticed I got some music playing. I usually don't have music playing, but you know what? For this kind of thing, I figure we'll get some music playing. This is Creative Commons music. There's a little. And dang it, I gotta deal with commercials on here too, so hopefully this won't get too annoying. I gotta figure out some playlists of some good Creative Commons stuff that I can play without having to disrupt my my workflow. So this is kind of some chill sci-fi music. We'll rock this as well. And we'll do a little bit of attribution. Copy that, paste it in my dashboard. That way nobody can say I didn't attribute. Alright, so yeah, we'll probably listen to a few of these Creative Commons songs, see if I find a couple I like. Hey, I might even use them in a video game at some point. Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, enough of this yickety yakety. Let's get to work. We don't got time to be sitting around all day. We're already 6 minutes into this video, and I haven't even drawn anything yet. Okay, so let's get going. First of all, I think we're going to do the fern right now. So fern, sometimes when I'm not quite sure what I'm wanting to do, I'll just make a layer, and we'll just make a paintbrush layer, and I can just start drawing, right? So, like a fern, if I was to get a fern leaf, and I was to stretch it out, they kind of look like this, I think. Right? Is that kind of ferny? A little bit ferny. So that looks okay already. I mean, it's not the best setup, of course, but I think it's gonna work. Remember, this is just kind of a scribble layer. I like to make scribble layers. And then when you want to go and finalize it, what you do is you make a shape. You make a selection around the object, and then that way you can fill it in, and it will be perfect, right? There'll be no no partially transparent pixels that you want to do. It'll be nice clean edges. So yeah, this is actually, I'm pretty happy with this already. This is definitely starting to look like a fern leaf. It is definitely big. So ferns the leaves kind of get smaller as they get to the tip, and bigger and wider towards the base. And they're all real uniform, right? They all look the same, just bigger or smaller. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and just keep working with what I've got here. This is let's get some coloring going here. Oh, I hate how on my dual monitors it always wants to put my stuff up on the wrong screen. Maybe there's an option in Photoshop to change that. I'm not sure. Possibly. Maybe. Okay, so I want to deal with that green, but I want to go a little darker. And we are going to put this on a new layer, of course, because we do not want so okay, so the method I just did right there was the shift touch shift drag, and what that does is it puts a straight line in between those 2 points. This is a super handy technique, and if you want to be working with Photoshop at all, this is definitely something you want to learn how to do early. Oops. So you can see how I've got my how up here this kind of a little jagged. Here's what we could do for this. We're just gonna delete that, whip it back to the brush, and I'm gonna touch the tip of that, just the tip, and we will shift drag it. There we go. Okay, so since this is a separate layer, and this is a really convenient part, now we can kind of manipulate this guy and kind of give it a little bit more character. Alright, because leaves are not perfectly straight by any means. So, not super bad, but we could do a little better, I think. Let's get me a decent eraser going here. Just take a little bit of that off. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. When in doubt, just use the smudge tool. Clean things up a little. Okay, this leaf is going to be really small, so this really doesn't even matter how good this looks. I just wanted a little bit of darkness. And what I want to do is I want to give some ambient occlusion to this crease in the middle of this leaf. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this layer. We will make a couple copies of it, and the copies, we're going to blur these bad boys. Gaussian blur, there you are. So the Gaussian blur can be real handy. It's even more handy when it shows you the thing it's blurring. I hate it when it does this. It's like, you want to blur this right here? Okay, take the blur all the way off until we find our line. There it is. That's what we're dealing with. Okay, so we want to add a little bit of blur to that, just to kind of turn it from a solid into a shadow. Okay, that didn't do too much. So what we can do is we can, I think it's Alt-F to redo, yeah, Control-F. So Control-F, we'll do that same Gaussian blur we just did to the next layer. I'm going to combine those layers. We're gonna blur them one more time, and this time we're gonna go a little bit more. Okay. And yeah, that looks pretty good. See how it adds like a little bit of shading to it? And if it's too much, you can always drop this opacity down. Opacity is a great thing to work with, right? If you ever need to add color to something, say you got a background color and you want to add some of that background color to the foreground, to the item in the foreground, you can always add a little bit of opacity to let that color bleed through, and then it kind of will give the resemblance of the color splashing onto the object, right? Because that's how color works, right? Light will bounce off of things, and it will take some of that color with it and put it on something else. Yeah, a little weird, I know, a little confusing, I know, but it's all right. That's just the way it works. So I'm pretty happy with this leaf so far. I think the edges need a little bit. I want to darken them up just a touch. So here's the way I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and drop, we're going to copy this base layer, the layer with the leaf on it itself. What I'm going to do is make a copy of that. We're going to, actually I didn't need to make a copy, I just needed an empty layer, but this will work. So we're going to use the selection tool, and I'm going to grow this bad boy. I think that did what I wanted. Hang on, let me back that up. Control Z. Okay. Now, we're going to modify, and we are going to expand. I don't know the difference between expand and grow, but this expand seems to work a lot better for me most of the time. And typically it gives me, there it is, it gives me a box, but as always it is on my other monitor for some reason. So 2 pixels is pretty good for what I'm doing here. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 2. And we're going to fill this area with this darker green. So Alt-Delete usually will take care of that. Drop the selection, and bam, now you see I have a little bit of a darker border to our leaf. So that's pretty much exactly what I wanted. That will work. I'm fairly happy with this. The tip of this leaf looks a little weird. This part up here, I think I could probably fix that though. Let's drop that selection. Let's go up here to my blurry lines. I'm gonna go ahead and combine those two layers. So Control E. This is a good tip too. Whenever you need to combine two layers, just get the topmost layer, hit Control E, and boom, those two layers become one layer, and whichever was on top of the other one is now gonna be permanent, right? So if you do this, it's gonna remove all those pixels that were underneath. So if something underneath was important, you don't want to combine those layers until you're absolutely ready to do that. Alright, so carrying on. I want to do a little bit of tweaking on this leaf a bit. Just want to kind of get this to shape this a little bit better. And this warp tool, I keep calling it the warp tool. Warp tool is perfect for this. Okay, let's see how that looks. Oh, much better. Okay, so I think this leaf is looking freaking tastic. We're gonna go ahead and shrink it down now, and we're gonna start building the actual fern leaf. Let's pull up some reference and see if we can kind of get a look at the pattern and see. Let's go ahead and make a new one here. Fern leaf. There we go. Okay, so fern leaves. So I was a little bit wrong with my leaf. I'd made it one part, whereas you can see on these, they're actually little tiny leaves is what it looks like that kind of branch off. Or maybe it's just more spikes on the leaves itself. So let's do that. Let's add some fringe to the leaf. Give it a little bit more of a jagged edge. And yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one so far, so I'm going to keep this one. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and combine all these layers. So what I did here is I selected the top layer, I went to the bottom layer, and I hit Shift, click. What that did is it selected all the layers in between. I know that's a little bit excessive right now since we only have 3 layers, but if I had like a bunch of layers, this would be a very handy thing to do, right? So instead of hitting Control E to combine 2 layers, this was going to, I don't think Control E will work for this. Oh, it did! Well, never mind. So Control E will go ahead and put all your selected layers into one layer. Interesting. You learn something new every day, eh? And I thought I was a master wizard at this program. But apparently I'm just a noob. Okay, so I'm going to try to see if I can get myself in camera here a little better. We'll try not to get too much of the Wacom on the camera. Okay, so let's go ahead and save a copy of this leaf. We will put that in a folder and call this leaf 1. Okay, and let's go ahead and hide that bottom layer. Get that leaf in there. And now, okay, so now we got our copy of our leaf. Now, what we can do, so things are going to be a little screwed up now, right? Because we've got this border edge around our leaf, but we want to kind of give it a jaggedness to it. So this is slightly problematic now because of that dark edge on it. But our options are to back all the way out, or we can just deal with it. We can just work around it, and then we'll add a new stroke layer later, and that hopefully will clean things up. Alright, so maybe this will work, maybe it won't, but you know what, we're gonna have fun trying. So I'm gonna need a fancy eraser here. We need something with an angle, something I can cut. Oh, look at this. So this is a leaf brush. This actually might do what I want it to do. However, this is so big, it's not fitting on. Is it too big or too small? I don't know. Oh, okay. There you go. Oh dear. Okay. So this brush is not gonna work. Because this is one of those animated brushes where it moves the image around each time you if you click and drag it, it's going to put a whole bunch of different images on there in random different colors and sizes and rotations. So that's not exactly what we want. Oh man, commercials. Darn commercials. Alright, here we go. Some Adventure Time music. This is perfect for making fern leaves. Alright. So, let's find a better eraser brush. We might just need to end up going with one of these guys. Oh my goodness. This is so slow. This is never gonna work. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here. Let's make sure I didn't actually do anything. Eraser, eraser, eraser. Yep, let's go ahead to layer order. And we will begin here. So, not sure why that brush isn't working. Probably, maybe the hardness. Oh, that's weird. Huh, that might work. Can I rotate this? Oh, heck yeah, okay. So, if we get this at the angle I need it at... This is horrible. Straight down? No. No, it stopped turning for me. This is ridiculous. Okay. So, usually I just, I fly by the seat of my pants as far as brushes are concerned. I usually don't go out of my way to go find special brushes. I just kind of use what I got. I've always kind of been that way, right? I've never always had to kind of just deal with what I had. I mean, my whole life, right? Like, I used to ride a skateboard, and I always had... My skateboard was always crappier than all my friends, but, you know, at least I had one. At least I had fun. Lots of people don't have fun when they're kids. So why is my eraser not working? This is concerning. Let's look at our layers. Let's see what's going on with this guy. Oh, okay, I found the problem. So we didn't have the layer selected, so Photoshop had no idea what layer we were trying to erase. It's possible we already screwed up our other leaf. Oh yeah, yeah we did. Okay, but that's alright. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and throw that one right in the trash. We're going to get our new one. We're going to alt drag it to make a copy. We're going to stick that sucker right in the box where it needs to be. We're going to select the proper layer. And we're going to get back to working on our leaf. So, oh man, that song went quick.
Online Blender course on YouTube. It's taught by an expert instructor who's also an experienced 3D artist. You'll learn animation, UV unwrapping, texture map.
Okay, get out of here. Alright, this one's called Conan Background Music. Creative Commons, of course. Alright. So, let's see if this has worked better now that we have the right layer. We got the right thing happening here. Okay, so this is definitely making cuts, but that's totally not what we're looking for. This isn't going to work out. So here, I got another idea. What we're going to do is we're going to shrink this bad boy down. That's right. Control T. Control T is the transform button. This is another really handy hotkey to learn. If you ever need to rotate something, Control T is what you need to use. This little thing in the middle here is like a little origin point. This is how if we need to scale it or we need to rotate it, we need to move that point, and it will do that. All right, so let's move this guy back into the middle. Let's rotate it a little bit. Now let's shrink it down. Okay, actually, you know what? That looks like a really nice leaf. Kind of small, but it's I mean, that's what we're looking for real. So I think what we should do now is we're gonna make a few of these leaves, right? Because a fern bush has tons of these leaves, right? That go all over the place. That's what makes it a bush, right? So the difference between a bush and a tree is pretty much the width and height of the main stalk, right? On trees we call them trunks. Bushes we call them stalks. I don't know why. But basically, bushes are just mini trees. So for this, we need the stem. The stem is the center point that all the leaves are going to attach to. And the best way to do this is we're going to make a selection. So we're probably going to make a bunch of these stems, right? Like, because we need our leaves to do a bunch of different things. So it would make sense to have a handful of different stems. So we're going to make some stems. These are going to be a little bit big. But we're going to shrink them down. Alright, let's see how that looks. So, there we have a stem. A little fat. Let's see, I think... Oh no! So what that tells me, see how the selection box, I hit the Control T, and the selection box went around both items? That tells me that I was a dummy and forgot to put the stem on a separate layer. So we will hit Control Z to back out of that. Actually, we will hit cancel. Then we will hit Control Z. Get back to where we were at this point. Then we're going to add a new layer. And now that I got the selection tool up, what we can do is we can work on the selection tool. So I'm going to hit an Alt drag, and we're going to get rid of this chunk of the selection. So it's still a little fat there towards the middle. So let's see if we can shave off just a little bit more. Yeah, it's looking better. So we're on a new layer. We're going to hit Alt Delete to fill that sucker. Control D will drop the selection. And yeah, there we have a little bit of a leaf. Let's see if we can squish that a little bit. Alt E A W will get you into the warp. And if I grab down here and pull this, nope, not that thing. Don't grab that. Grab right here in this middle side. Nope, it keeps wanting to give that. Oh, jeez. Jeez Louise! Okay, up here. Okay, there we go. There we go. Now we're cooking. Okay, inner. Alright, that is definitely looking a lot more like a fern stem. Okay, so our leaf is still really big. We got another commercial up. Darn you, YouTube. Alright. Oh, this is very video gamey. I can dig it. Okay, cool. So I like this leaf size, so I'm gonna keep this guy. Keep him handy. So we got the stem. That one's the leaf. So let's go ahead and make a couple. V to get my move selection tool. And let's make a few of these. And these are going to have to be way small. So when you're doing this transformation, if you hit, see how it's all over the place? If you hold the shift button down, it will do it and it will keep the aspect ratio. Very important. Very, very important. Okay, Control T. Alright, we'll shift drag that guy down. Make a little tiny leaf. Yeah, so you can kind of see how this is going here. So this first leaf is going to be kind of a pain in the butt, right? Because we're going to make every single one of these. Whoop, whoop. Okay, enter. I'm going to shift click each one of these to select them. We're going to go ahead and move them over here. We're just going to go ahead and start putting these guys on here. Okay, click off them, click back on. So I kind of feel that guy should be about there. Let's put that guy there. Let's put that guy there. So I'm alt dragging each of these. Haha, dragon. Oh no! So sometimes you'll find this where it's trying to snap. We don't want that. If you hold alt down, wait, control? Yeah, control. So control, see, it takes away the snap, and I can get much more fine and precise with it. Okay, so we're definitely not done with these. Right now we're just kind of putting them up here to do that. Then we're gonna resize these guys. And you know what would probably help? Is if we could actually see what's going on here. So Z button gets you into zoom. Go ahead and click on these a couple times. Make them look nice and blurry. Alright, South Park, I love you, but I don't love your commercials. Okay. So we want our move tool. And most of these I'm just changing the length of them. The height, if I need to, we'll change some of those at some point, like this one, for example. This guy looks like it could be a little wider. A little smaller. That guy's bothering me a little bit, so we're gonna move him like this. You know, it's alright if they're not all symmetrical and perfect, because, you know, sometimes, even in nature, things aren't perfect. Sometimes things can be a little whack. It's just part of life. And a good artist is able to show the imperfections, right? Like anybody can make a bunch of perfect stuff, right? Well, not anybody, but you know what I mean. Like, to make something perfect is almost looks fake because there's not enough, there's no flaws at all. There's no real life happening to the item. Right? Everything has flaws. Everything has an edge to it. Nothing is perfectly straight. Okay. This is coming along fantastically. Shrink these guys down just a little bit more. And I'll shrink you down a little bit more. Just drag you and make a really little tiny one. Huh, interesting. For some reason, Control T is doing a shrinkage. That's weird. Okay, so now that I have all these leaves, let's get, okay, that besides that big one there, we're gonna select all of these. And I'm gonna shift drag them suckers right over here. Okay, so I didn't necessarily want to bring this stem with me. It's alright though. We can just click off everything, grab that stem, and hit deleted. Okay, maybe not. We will grab that layer and hit delete. No, that didn't want to work either. Okay, so we'll drag the layer to the trash can. There we go. I got rid of it. Okay. So now back to these. Alright, so I want to flip these over. So Alt E A H for horizontal. Okay, that didn't work. That didn't work at all. And I got some weirdness going on too. Man, what's going on here? Alright. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on. Let's see if we can back out of this a little bit. Let's get the history going on here. Okay, that was a step where we moved away the stem. That's good. Let's go ahead and close that. See, is that the stem? Yes, it is. We will delete that layer. Okay, so here's part of the problem. There we go. Okay, so from there to the top. Dang it. My shift click didn't work. Alright, here's one of the problems about not labeling your layers. Most of the time, it's a real good idea to label your layers. But that's so slow. So, what happened? What happened? Here's what we're gonna do. Part of the problem is my scroll wheel. Let's see if we can hide all these suckers. Okay, we almost got them all. Looks like one leaf. There it is. Okay, so we can close that. We can hide that. We can unhide that. Okay, so the rest of these are going to be the other side of it. Let's go ahead and put those in a group. Put that guy with it. Alright, now we can kind of organize this a little bit. So, now, let's try this again. Alt-E. No, that's not working. We got something wrong here. Alt-E is freaking out. And we're definitely going to need some... Oh, this is way too happy for me. And that's got way too much. Alright, let's see if this is better. So this is being real problematic. I don't know what this black stuff is underneath this, but when I hit Alt-E, it is not supposed to do that. It's supposed to drop this open. Okay, so that's better. Back to history. Okay, there we go. That should do it. Okay, so we've got that separated. Now, Alt-E, A to transform, and we want to flip this horizontally, so H. There we go. Yes, finally. Okay, so the reason I kept this all in individual lasers is now we are going to redo this part of it. Alright, so we'll go ahead and click off to get rid of all those layers. We're going to start dragging these guys. Actually, no, that one looks better down there. Yeah. So this is a little tedious, yes, but it's going to look fantastic once we're done with it. And that's really what matters. So we're going to put some rotations on this next. That way they don't look completely... So right now it's still looking a little bit artificial, right? Like you can see the perfect mirror of the leaves doesn't look right? Like it looks man-made, or not, you know, it doesn't look precise. Part of the problem is I think this leaf right here is a little bit long. Scale, there we go. not too much right there. Alright, and do it to the one across from it. You're just gonna oh, it keeps wanting to move it. Alright, now we need to shrink it just a bit. Okay. That's better. Looks like this one's standing out a little bit as well. How's that look? Okay, not too bad. Okay, let's go ahead and shrink this guy down just a touch. Okay, size-wise, that's looking a little better. This guy needs to be a little fatter. However, that there we go. That's better. Enter. Okay, so let's do a little rotation here. Oh man, it's not letting me move. It's not letting me move my origin point. Dang it. Man, I'm finding all the bugs in Photoshop today. So no, I'm not drinking beer this early in the morning. I'm drinking an energy drink. I'm not gonna name the name because they don't sponsor me. If they want to start sending me free drinks, hell, I'll give them a shout out. But I doubt they're gonna be sponsoring some YouTuber with barely over 100 subscribers. But you never know. You never know. At some point, I'll probably be able to get some sponsorships. I'd really love like some equipment sponsorships, right? Like maybe some gear, right? Like I've already got like the top of the line drawing monitor, right? So that would be cool, but I really don't have room for another one of those. So I would much rather have something like, you know, some gaming gear. I got a pretty good gaming rig right now, but it's kind of my only computer that's really good enough to do high-end game development and play some of the more demanding video games that are coming out nowadays. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just rotating these leaves a little bit, trying to give them a little bit more of a natural pattern. Right, these leaves aren't going to be bristly either. They're going to be kind of flimsy a little bit, right? Like the wind's going to blow them around. The animals moving around and whatnot are going to ruffle the leaves. So this is starting to look fantastic, if I do say so myself. These little guys up here are a little bit ridiculous. They're so small. But yeah, this is definitely starting to look a little bit more like a tree. That makes me happy. Okay, so there's a few things we can do now. What I'd like to do is we're going to do some experimenting now, right? So we've kind of got a leaf already. It's a fairly decent looking leaf. It's maybe not completely fern-like because the little leaves don't have the jagged edges that we saw. But it's alright. This looks like it could definitely be in a swamp. Okay, this guy down here, we're going to go ahead and label that one so I can keep track of it. Leaf. We will put that down with leaf 1, and we will hide it. Okay, so what I want to do now is I kind of want to keep this separated, but I want to still be able to manipulate the whole thing. So there's a couple different ways we could do that. One is I could make a copy of everything here, which is pretty tiresome. The two groups, we can go ahead and combine these groups now. We'll Control E to do that. Boom! Okay, it combined everything. That is not exactly what we want, because we're going to have to make some more ferns, and we're going to want to keep these leaves separate, at least for now. So let's Control Z back out of that. Yes. Okay, here's what we'll do. We will select both groups, and we will Alt drag all the way down there. Okay, hide everything. Now we will hit Control E, and we will combine those. Okay, so what I did there is I made a copy of both the groups. So what that did is it copied all of those individual layers in the groups, and then I was able to combine all those layers. Now we have one leaf, right? So we can move this around. Now we can start trying to manipulate this and make different leaves out of it. But we still have our individual small leaves, so if we need to make some more and kind of rearrange the leaves a little bit, that way we'll be able to go back and do that, right? That's just kind of having some forethought that we might need to be able to use that later. So we want to be able to keep it separated for ease of use later. Sure, I could probably go cut some leaves off of this one, no problem, but this is just kind of trying to leave less work for us in the future, which is always good, right? So let's start playing around with this and see if we can see how well it warps. Alt E A W. Okay, so if we say we want this to go to the other side, is this going to look totally whack? It might look totally whack. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit skeptical. Just a little bit though. Okay, that's not too bad. So we can get some nice bends out of it. Bring that guy back in a little more. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so now we've got an additional fern leaf. Yeah! Look at us go! We're creating organics. It reminds me of a store I went to in Colorado called Choice Organics. It was a cool place. I liked it. Alright, so this is pretty good. Let's make a copy of that. E-A-H. That was a horizontal flip. So now we got one like that, one like that. Let's go ahead and take this guy again. And let's, let's alt drag that. And we're going to size this one. So it's always good to do your sizing from big to small. And there's a very specific reason why you want to go from big to small when you're resizing things. And I kind of understood this for a long time, but I never really understood why it's important to go from big to small instead of from small to big. And it's a real simple explanation, actually. When you resize an object in Photoshop, let's say you're making it smaller first, okay? When you're making a big object small, what the computer does is it has to figure out what pixels to get rid of, right? Because it's smashing down the objects, it's got to throw away pixels. And so the computer can kind of figure out which pixels aren't necessary to kind of give it the overall look to continue. So it makes sense, right? That's not too hard. It's just getting rid of some pixels that are extra. Now, the opposite, the reason why you don't want to go from small to big is the computer has to make up the pixels. It has to kind of figure out what it thinks the pixels might be, and it kind of has to guess, right? So when the computer guesses, it actually does pretty well considering what it's doing, but it's definitely not perfect, and it starts to have problems. You start getting blurry edges, you start getting stretched things, and it's just because the computer, you know, it can't quite handle, it can't, you know, it doesn't know exactly what things need to be. It just has to guess. So take my word for it. You always want to do your resizing from big to small. Going from small to big causes major problems, and it looks whack, right? You don't want it to look whack, you want it to look bomb. So that's why we're here. That's why we're learning. We're learning together. Good times. Okay, so back to what I was doing. We're resizing these fern leaves, and we are making them from bigger to smaller. We're gonna make this one real small. See how that looks. Oh, not super terrible, but kind of terrible. Let's Control Z that guy. Let's try that again. Oops, Control T, not Alt T. And let's shrink you in this way a little. Let's rotate you. Okay, not bad, not too shabby. Okay, let's copy this guy. I wish, okay, if anybody from Adobe's listening, can we change the hotkey from the warp to something with maybe 2 buttons instead of 4? I use this so much, and it's ridiculous that I have to hit 4 buttons just to get this tool up. Anyways, there probably is an easier way to do it, and I just don't realize it, but, you know, lazy. When you have to hit a tool 1,000 times in a day, it's nice to be able to drop down a few of those keystrokes, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, that doesn't look totally whack. That makes me happy. Alright, let's zoom out a little bit. Let's see what these bad boys look like. So that's just pretty much what they're gonna look like size-wise on the screen. Probably a little big still, but you never know. So this game is set in a prehistoric age, so maybe there was giant fern plants. I mean, I don't know. We don't know. We know there was big plants. At least the scientists believe there was big plants. You know, I think there's fossil records and stuff. Like, you can see ferns and fossils. So it's not totally out of line for scientists to know that there are actually some pretty freaking old ferns. I'm pretty sure this is an old-ass plant. Alright, so I kind of want to keep these individual for now. We'll probably put them all together later and make a couple different bushes. Let's definitely make some more of these. Mirror that sucker. Shrink it down just a little bit. So we want to kind of give a 3D look to these guys, right? And ferns, they kind of tend to have parts that branch off and droop. That actually looks really good. Warp Tour tool, the Warp Tour tool, to the rescue once again. Alright, so let's grab one of these for this side. Actually, I like this one enough. We're going to go ahead and just drag this over. Alt-E-A-H to flip that sucker. Oh yeah, this is looking delicious. Okay, not that one. This one. Man, isn't this music jamming? Gotta love the Creative Commons. E-A Okay, we want to kind of give this a little bit of the look that it's folding over just a little bit. Let's give that guy a little more spin-a-roonies. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Man, it's starting to look like I even know what I'm doing. Who would have thought? You probably turned this on thinking, oh, look at this guy. He looks like a pro. Look at that beard. He's got to be pro with a beard like that. Actually, I'm just growing this out for, to be more piratey. Piratey, Viking, you know. Trimmed up a little bit today, but yeah, this sucker's getting long. I've been growing this since I think about March. Anyways, getting sidetracked. Let's get back to making fern plants. Alright, so I'm really happy with this one so far. Let's go ahead and let's whip one of these over. Let's flip it. Alt-E-A-H. Flipperoo. Okay, so we will add this to the stack. This guy's right here. This guy's down here. Let's flip that guy a little more. Try to make it look like all the stems are coming out of one spot. Because it's kind of going to grow like a normal plant, right? Like, it's going to start in one spot, and it's going to start branching off from that spot. A fern is no different, right? It's all going to come from one spot and grow outwards. And then once the leaves start getting big, they start falling over, and then eventually curve downwards towards the ground. So, I think that's kind of what we're going for here. So far, so good. Let's take some of these smaller ones up here. Let's take a couple, okay, what? Oh, okay. I gotta finish that one before I can drag this guy over here. So if we flip you around like this, whoop, whoop. Okay. Not too bad. Let's make that a little less extreme. Okay, not bad. Let's, I think that guy needs a little warp, though. A little warp action. Warp speed, Mr. Warp. So we'll just warp this guy up a little bit to kind of make it look a little bit more 3D. We'll give it a little more arc to that branch. Fill that in like that. Beautiful. Okay, but we don't want it to look too symmetrical, right? Because this part of the plant is going to be all over the place. There's not going to be a lot of symmetry to this, this part of it. So this guy's this guy's a little bit troublesome over here. I kind of want to bring one of these other ones in. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna bring this guy in. Control T. It is a little bit short for my likings and a little bit straight. Okay, that's alright. That's good enough. I think we can probably use another one of those. We will flip. Alt-E-A-H. Line it up. Let's do a little warpy on this guy as well. We need you to be a little more droopy and a little more curvy. Okay, that's alright, I suppose. It's not too bad. I think it needs one more. Maybe let's add a small one here. Whoops. It looks pretty good. This one's a little whack right now. Those two are a little whack. And I think we're definitely going to need some more small ones down on the bottom side. Oops. Okay. We want to warp this guy a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay, very nice. Very, very nice. Alright, so we can just copy these a little bit. Now it actually doesn't look too bad. Yeah, it's starting to look like a freaking bush. Yeah! Woo woo! What if I put this guy back in there? Not terrible. Not the best. I'm a little... I kind of don't like... I kind of want to bring this guy up in the stack a little bit. Let's bring this guy way up top here. And let's put him up on top a little more. Right now what's bothering me is this stem. The stem for this is a little obnoxious. This one too. I'm thinking if I can get this guy all the way up, we can work on this a little bit. Alright, Alt T. So we don't want to go too much bigger. That's not bad. Let's see if we can warp it. Make this guy look a little more natural. Got rid of those stems. Now I just have one stem, and it doesn't look super bad. What if I put some of these small guys up on top, like? Let's alt drag this little guy here, and let's move him up to the top of the stack. Nope, nope, don't want to do that. We want to rotate you. Rotate you. Okay, so I got a different idea now. The big guy, we're gonna go ahead and put that down towards the back, and these little guys, we're gonna put these guys up front. So let's shift drag both of those, flip them around. You see what I'm doing here, don't you? Fills it out a little bit. Not sure it's the best. Stretch these. Stretch them. So it's kind of busy, but a bush is kind of supposed to be busy, right? It kind of looks like a fern bush. Not sure the best way to make this better, but it's decent. It's decent. It might need a little bit of work. I'm probably going to have to analyze it and think about how I want it to look a little better, and then we'll go from there. So let's make a couple of these. So kind of the same way we did before. We're going to basically make a copy of all these. Let's man, I got a lot of layers going here. Let's group these first. We'll Alt Shift drag the group. The copy of the group, we want to shift, we want to click everything inside. Control E to combine. Oh dear. We just combined everything. Every dang thing! Okay. Let's try that again. So, we don't want to do quite everything, right? Actually, you know what? Why not? Screw it! Here's how you solve that problem. All the stuff that you didn't want to copy, delete, delete, hide, hide, unhide. Boom! There we go. Okay, so now with this guy, now we've got this as a single unit. let's see if I can touch this guy up a little bit. Let's paint a little bit. So we want our lighter color green. Let's zoom in here. So I could probably, we could probably do a little bit of fixing here with just we're just going to take our brush and we're going to take out a little bit of the darkness of this stem. Not a whole lot. In fact, you know what? We should be working on a different layer. Whenever you're adding something to something you already like, it's a good idea to go ahead and give it a separate layer. That way, if you end up deciding you don't like the changes, it's easy to just get rid of that layer and move along. Okay, so let's get rid of that, and let's so if we're just putting like a little highlight on the stem so that the darkness is actually now looking more like shadow instead of the totally obnoxious thing. Okay, so we got that one stem done. Let's see what happens if we drop the opacity a little bit. Remember I said earlier when you're wanting to mix colors and you're wanting to get a little bit of color on another color? You put a layer on top, you drop the opacity, and it mixes the two colors together. Brilliant! Okay, so now that I got those colors pretty decent, I can go ahead and go back to my brush here and then just start drawing on these stems where I think they're a little bit too dark. This is where, this kind of thing is where these monitors, the drawing monitors, I use a Wacom 24-inch Cintiq, I think is what it's called. And this is where these things really are a benefit. Doing this part with a mouse is craziness. Just craziness. Okay, let's move this guy down so we can see a little better. So this actually worked pretty well. Took a lot of the stuff that was too dark has been taking it out, and this is looking a lot better. You keep a little bit of the darkness. You want the light to you want to keep the dark edge to where the shadows would be, right? Like usually it's the underside of something. The highlight should be facing the light, and the shadows should be the opposite, facing the opposite way of the light. So this is definitely, I'm definitely thinking this is looking better. I'm a lot happier with it. This bottom part looks a little weird, but it doesn't look super bad. I'm wondering. Okay, well, let's combine these layers, Control E, and then let's warp it. So we want to avoid warping too much because we don't want to lose the details in our plant here. It's decent. Let's zoom out and take a look. Okay, yeah, it kind of looks like a fern plant. So these fern plants are going to be tiled. The object, the character of the game, is going to be about 3 of our tiles high. Now remember, our tiles are 32 pixels by 32 pixels. Let's go ahead and bring the grids back up. So as you can see, if our character is 3 of these squares high, then this fern is huge still. This is way too big for a fern. A fern would not... I mean, our caveman is going to be short, right? We're not going to try to sugarcoat that. He's going to be a little short dude, but he's going to have a big heart. But he can't be dealing with ferns that are like 3 times his height. Now I'm sure they had big ferns back when caveman were riding dinosaurs. That probably never happened, but you know, for the sake of fun, we'll say it did. Oh my gosh, sorry. I gotta get off of this music. Alien planet ambiance. That's better. Okay. So you don't always know what you're getting when you're dealing with Creative Commons music. Okay, let's hide these guides again for a second. Whoops, wrong button. Wrong window. Okay, let's get back to Photoshop. There we go. Now let's hide the guides. Let's make a couple of these now. So we have 2 mirrored ones here. If these are sitting right next to each other, then it's going to be real obvious that they're mirrored, right? Like the closer you get, the more it's pretty freaking obvious that it's mirrored. Doesn't look too bad when it's opposite this way, but looks a little whack when it's like this, right? So let's put these up here. So these are probably going to look pretty decent when they get them down to the size we need them to be. Okay, so figure these ferns are going to be pretty freaking big, but we still want to be able to see the head of our main character above the ferns, right? Like the way we're going to layer these ferns in the game is he'll walk in front of some of them, but behind some of them, right? So it'll give depth to the game, even though it's 2D. We use this this layering to give it depth and to kind of give it a pseudo 3D. So this is pretty good. This size is pretty good. But as you can see on my tiles right here, I'm using a lot of freaking tiles for it. Let's see if we can shrink this down a little bit more and get the number of tiles we need to use back in control. Okay, that's not too shabby. Part of the problem we're dealing with here too is that these bushes are going to be on the ground. So, maybe they'll be in the ground. I mean, maybe not. Maybe we'll use these for the top of a tree, like a palm tree, because it looks like an awful lot like a top of a palm tree. Maybe not. The smaller leaves definitely give it a more fern-like look, but I mean, it could definitely double as a palm tree. We'll probably do something different for palms later. So, I gotta decide if I'm happy with the size of this. I think it'll probably be alright. Let's make this guy also small. Okay, so we're not gonna make our. Eventually, we will populate all of our content onto sprite sheets, right? Where we'll have all our sprites on a sprite sheet, and then we'll cut them out of that in game. That saves on loading time, right? You want to avoid loading in a ton of different images. It's better to load in one big image with all of the images on it, and then cut them out in the game. It'll just make your game work better, and it's just a good practice, right? Just something to get used to. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with these fern plants. The sizing of them, I think, is probably about right. We're probably going to have to definitely do some, We'll do some editing of them later. So that doesn't look too bad. So this one I kind of squished out. So if this was the ground layer, it would be sitting on this. That's not too bad. It's kind of big, but not super bad. Let's make another one like this. We'll flip this one. Okay. Let's hide those, and yeah, I think this is gonna look just fine. Yeah. Okay, so good. We got another plant for our swamp. Alright, so let's go ahead. We're at about an hour and 16 minutes. Hey, it looks like Matt. Hey, how's it going, Matt? Matt on the live stream is saying, please reply. Well, I'm busy, Matt. Shit. I'm making fern plants. How's it going, man? How's it going? Welcome to the live stream. We are doing artwork. I'm going to probably go for about 2 hours today. So we got about another 45 minutes. Let's make a stump. What do you think about that? I think that sounds freaking awesome. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and save this off. We're going to call this bad boy... What are we going to call this bad boy? First off, we want to... File organization is very important. Projects... Chunk. Let's make a new folder, and we're going to call this assets. Assets. Go into assets, make a new folder. We're going to call this swamp. And we will go ahead and leave it in here, and we're going to call this fern. Actually, let's give it a full name. Chunk. Right now is the working, is possibly what the game's going to be called. And this is fern plant. Okay, good enough. Now, let's go ahead and close out of there. Oh my gosh, my Photoshop's freaking. Okay, get rid of you. Now let's get rid of you. And we're not working with you right now. Let's go ahead and we're going to make a new 1024 by 768. We are going to add our grid. New guide layout. Boom. I love how it defaults the template that you used last time, because I don't use very many other guide templates than this one. Okay, so we're going to add a new layer. Let's see if we can make a stump. Okay, so the way our game's going to work is there's going to be ledges. So we're not going to be able to see past the ground. So we want a flat spot from where our stump is going to start. And that's going to represent where the ground's at. And then the stump is going to kind of be growing out for that flat spot. And then it can be all weird and stump-like. But for now, what I like to do with a lot of these things is you just come in here, grab a black pin, make it a little bigger. Yeah, good enough for now. And we're just going to kind of draw what a stump might look like, right? Like it's going to be kind of jagged towards the top. It's going to come down, and then it's going to kind of cut off. Okay. So for my initial stump, that's not too bad. So it's going to have more flatness on the bottom here. It's alright if the corners are rounded a little bit, I think. This side kind of looks good. Let's So, shape-wise, I think we're kind of good. What we're going to do now is go ahead and give ourselves a new layer. Let's make a selection out of this bad boy. Actually, you know what? There's an easy way to do that. Hit escape. If you just hit Control in the layer, on the layer window, it'll automatically make a selection of all the pixels that are in that layer. This is super convenient. Whenever you want to select the whole layer, just Control and click on the layer window. That's it. So now we want to get rid of this whack roundedness up here. So this is actually not too hard to do now that we've got this tool. If you hold down Alt, it turns the selection tool into a minus selection tool. So you can take off chunks of it and make it look more splintered, because the top of one of these is going to be like, this isn't like some lumberman didn't come by and chop this tree down. This tree broke because like some hurricane came through and it ripped this sucker down, or maybe a brontosaurus was cruising through and, you know, some wayward tail swipe just freaking knocked this tree right over. But the point I'm getting at is it's not going to have a clean base on the stump, right? This thing's going to be jagged. It's going to look whack. So we need to make this thing look jagged, right? We want splinters. We want sharp areas. Oh, come on, what's going on here? I think I just killed it. There you go. It's back. Oh man. Okay, this is acting. My selection tool is broken. Okay, let's do this a little bit differently. Okay, back to the drawing board. In this case, literally. Okay, get off that selection tool. Oh my gosh, it's going crazy. It's going crazy. Okay, off the selection tool. We want the eraser tool. We want a different brush than that. We want a hard brush, so as not to have those horrible areas. Oh look, my selection's back. How nice of you. Alright, well the good news about that is we can just come down here. We can invert our selection with Control-Shift-I. Now we can come down here and we can get rid of this excess stuff we don't want and kind of get a better look at what's going on here. Brush. Control-Shift-I. Brush. Okay, Control-Shift-I. Okay, selection inverted. Now we can draw on that part much better. Drop that selection, see how it looks. Definitely looking more like a broken stump. I think it can improve though. No, not that one. We need selection. What's this guy called? Pen tool? No, not sure. But let's sharpen this up a little bit. We're just going to make selections around here, the parts I want to get rid of. And then I'm just hitting the delete button to get rid of it. Not looking too bad. Kind of looks like a tree stump that's been broken off by the wind shear, or possibly, I mean, maybe a Gigantanotosaurus bit this sucker in half. Okay, not bad. So, now what we kind of want to do is the coloring. Right? Like, now these stumps, they kind of got a gray. Let's go back to our reference. Swamp trees. Okay, so stumps are going to be kind of this color. Like, these are still alive, so this has some brown to it, but once they die, they start turning like this. They start turning real gray and white almost. It could still be mossy, We don't want to get too complicated with the coloring. We still want to keep it kind of simplified. Like, you could go into a jungle and pick out 100, probably 1,000 different freaking shades of green. I don't know if there's that many shades of green, but there probably is. Okay, so some of them have water lines on them. That's kind of an interesting idea, to add a water line. But I think for the most part, we really want to try to keep it simple, right? The more simple the graphics are, the easier it is to put them out, theoretically. So let's go ahead and color this sucker. We're going to do it kind of a gray and a brown, I think. We want just to kind of look. Let's find our brown. And let's find our gray. That's not too bad. Alright, so let's make a selection of that. We'll pick a new layer. We'll leave this as a silhouette layer. So I'm going to hit... So now we've got one of these layers in green. I'm going to go ahead and make another layer on top of it. And we're going to make some more shapes on this that will kind of represent the roots, right? So we're going to add these, we're going to add some highlight areas. Now what we're going for is to kind of show where the light is hitting these we show where the light's hitting this root system, because these trees, like, the roots basically come right up out of the ground and become the trunk of the tree. Let's go back to our reference. Where's a good picture? So you can see on this one, you can see these stumps. These have been cut by loggers. But you can kind of see how they just pop out of the ground, and then they kind of have these vertical stripes where the shadows and the highlights are hitting them. Let's see if we can find a better example. Yeah, you can kind of see here. So the top parts are going to have the lighter areas, and the crevices are going to be darker. So what we'll probably do is we're going to do a couple layers here, and we're going to add some dark at some point. Okay, let's go ahead and ditch that. Okay, so the highlight areas are going to be less likely to have gaps in them. Okay, so there's a big contrast here between these two colors, right? But remember the trick I was talking to you earlier about is we can fix that. Just drop the selection. We're going to pick the layer that's got all the highlights on it, and we're just going to drop that opacity down. Look at that. Look at it blend. Look at it blend. Very nice. So I'm pretty happy with it at about, yeah, maybe about there. It's about 26% opacity. So now we need to add some darkness. So let's go ahead and get this guy. We'll drop it down nice and dark. Actually, before we do that, let's kind of give these edges. There's a problem here. Okay, let's add that in there. Got a little excess. We can go ahead and trim it up right now while we got that on there. Man, not bad. Not the prettiest stump I've ever made, but it's definitely stump-like. Okay, so let's change this up. Let's do some of these. Let's get some more jams going here. Right after this commercial. Alright, I'm going to have to figure out a better way to do music on these live streams. Okay, so this is a little bit out of control. Okay, we want to kind of flare these edges out on the sides here. It's alright if they go over. We can fix that here in a minute. So here's a trick. So we don't want our highlights going over the edge of this. So what I can do is I can hit Control and make a selection of the actual stump. Now I can go back to this layer. I can invert the selection, Control Shift I, and my eraser tool. Actually I can just hit the delete button. Boom, gone. Okay, drop that selection. Okay, we need to add this darkness in. There cannot be light without darkness. Okay, so these are going to be wider and narrower depending on the area it's in. Ooh, here's a problem. We're on the same layer as our highlights. That's going to cause problems. So we will redo that part on its own layer. Let's go ahead and use that one. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's an empty layer. Okay, obviously this is way too dark to begin with, but we'll fix that later with our opacity tool. So we want this to kind of be jaggedy. We're going to do a blur on it later, and we're going to do some blending, kind of get these colors to go better together, because this is an awfully dark color. These jagged edges, we're going to put a lot of shadows in here. There's a big crevice crevice here.
Want to master video editing skills and make gorgeous YouTube videos like Zoella, PewDiePie, or other superstars alike? Hi YouTubers, if you ever considered video making too difficult a task with steep learning curve, then you are absolutely
Okay, blur tool. When you're ever doing shadows, this blur tool is freaking awesome. Because you can push these shadows around, kind of soften them up, make them look a little more shadowy. First of all, though, I think we need to drop this opacity down a little bit. Blend those guys in there. Oh yeah, that's much better. Okay, let's even clean up these shadows over here. So not too bad. Looks a little stripy still. We don't want too much details. I think what we need to do is we need to blur this highlight layer a little bit. Let's see what a Gaussian blur looks like on that. Yeah, there we go. That's looking sharp. There, because we just want highlights, right? We don't want blocks, white stuff on it. Now it's starting to give it a little more shape, a little more depth. Let's do a Gaussian blur on that shadow layer as well and see how that looks. Let's see, was it Control F? Yeah, Control F. Okay, not bad. Not too bad. We want a little bit of ambient occlusion from the ground. And I don't know what color the ground underneath it's going to be. Probably brown, maybe green. It'll probably be green. But we want it to look like the ground and it are touching a little bit. So we're going to add just a little bit. We're going to use the same color that we used for our shadows. And we're just going to use a little bit of a gradient. So I made a selection around our whole stump because we don't want this gradient off of the stump. We just want it on it a little bit. This is just going to be where the ground is touching it. So it needs to be a little bit darker. That doesn't look too bad. So we can clean this top area up a little bit. So I'm pretty happy with this stump, but the stumps are actually going to be objects that are usable, right? Our character needs to be able to jump off of them. So having the jagged edges, while it looks alright, it's going to be a little bit weird to have him standing on it. So I think what we should probably do is make this a little less jaggedy. And to do that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this brown layer. See what happens if I push it. Oh, that's not good. Okay, I only want to move this layer, so I need to take the auto select off. There we go. Excuse me. Woo. So let's just take this over here and we're going to blunt this sucker up a little bit. Let's use the eraser tool. Actually, that's not too bad. So let's hide this guy and this guy. Let's bring this over here. Let's see. We need to work on this brown a little bit, because the inside of the tree should have definitely like more of a tan color to it. Let's see if we can find that color. Inside a wood tree, what's that look like? So that's not too bad. Alright, these are bothering me. We're going to get rid of this business. Whoop. What layer is that guy? Okay, it's that layer. It's the highlight layer. Let's go ahead and whip. Get that guy out of there. See, that's kind of what. Yeah, that's not too bad. So this is kind of, this color is representing the interior wood of the tree, right? It's gonna be a lighter color. These cracks aren't terrible, but it is going to make it harder for us to replicate this and use it a bunch of different times. So we're going to work on this a little more. Let's get the smudge tool. Let's get down here to this wood layer. Let's see if we can dull down these cracks a little bit, maybe. Okay, it's not super whack, only kind of whack.
Get free access to thousands of expert-led tutorials and personalized course recommendations. Click the banner to get started.
That's not the right color. Okay, let's try that again. Let's use... Okay, it's too dark. We need to get... like that color. That color. So even though this is starting to look much more like a logger cut it is going to make for a better platform for our hero to jump off of. Now let's see. This might look horrible. Yeah, absolutely. Back out of that. Back out, back out, back out. So, trees have rings on the inside of them. So we're going to try to kind of give it a little hint that there might be some rings in here. Not too terrible, but still not the best. Okay, look, clone tool action. This is how this works. Oop. Let's see. We want this layer. That brush is way too small. What happened to my highlights? They're there. Okay, not terrible. There we go. I want to soften that edge just a bit. It's a pretty good stump. Alright, so let's get rid of that layer.
You learn with LinkedIn Learning, the learning platform that meets the needs of your employees and your business. LinkedIn Learning, the shortest path.
Go ahead and combine all those, and we will do some sizing on this now. See if we can get this to the right size we want it. So when I'm sizing these, I'm trying to keep in mind the tiles, right? You don't want it to go over the tile too much. These ones it's pretty good to center. Let's go back to auto select. A taller tree. Make a real fat one. Alright, let's zoom out and take a look at these bad boys. Let's see how we're doing here. Not too bad. Some bigger, some smaller. Not sure. We might use these. I'm not sure yet. But I think it's a good starting point. It'll give us something to work with. Our other stuff is looking great. I'm thinking those bushes on here may be way too bright. But we'll have to see when we get them all together. Alright, so pardon the crazy sound effects. But yeah, I think that's it. We're gonna call it for today. Appreciate you hanging out with me and doing a little bit of work. And hope everybody ends up liking this game. This has definitely been a passion project for me. It's something I've been thinking about for a long time, and I'm finally getting an opportunity to start putting it together. So super exciting, super happy to be doing this, and yeah, I can't be thankful enough for the opportunity I have to do this. And I will see you guys next time. Tomorrow we're gonna do some more stuff. Maybe we'll start making some bad guys for our game. I've got a bunch of concept drawings done up for those guys. I'm pretty excited to get them working, because then I can show you guys how to animate them, and that's real fun. We've got some real slick ways of animating 2D materials, and yeah, I think you'll be impressed. So if you want to learn some more about Photoshop and game development in general, stop by tomorrow, hang out, hit the subscribe button, and if you really think this has been a good time, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Slap it around a little bit. Gently caress it. I don't care how you do it. Just hit the button. Well, anyways, I've rambled on long enough. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for checking out the channel. We'll be going to some more gaming. We'll be doing some gaming tonight. I'm probably going to be playing some stuff online. And yeah, I think that's enough updates for now. So, what are you still doing here? Get out of here. You got better stuff to do. Peace.